Well, 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 my dear Bulas and Beras, it is time once again, and it is I, Crown, from Crown's Crypto Cave, welcoming you to this new week of new opportunities and finally a new fucking thing to talk about on good old Bitcoin. Anyways, sorry, I'll get more serious because it's a very serious day. We have a lot of very serious technical analysis to get into today, and we actually have a lot of new things to talk about, which I'm actually rather happy about, not just with Bitcoin, but also with traditional markets and commodities as well. There is all sorts of opportunity all across the lands, and this is a trader's wet dream right now. So get your fucking PPs out and flying about because we are about to go down the dirty rabbit hole of Traders Monday. Anyways, looking at open interest on the CrownChain application over here, which can be found at app.crownchain.net, we do see that open interest actually poking its head above 2.3 billion with a B mark as Bitcoin does flirt, or sorry, actually, as we're going to look at a little bit later, very likely confirm a break above the top side of the long-term range. So we do have something very, 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 very important going on right here in quite literally a more serious tone right now, just because we don't really have a baseline to measure this off of. And finally now, and I believe that this will be actually fully and formally confirmed tonight, although I think that that's more of a formality than anything else. But this is going to be important to judge the sort of efficacy of looking at the open interest going here on and forwards, as we now have something to measure it off of as Bitcoin breaks a long-term range, plus open interest rising up about another 100 million from yesterday to today, hanging out just above 2.3 billion. So that is all good. As volume is increasing, would suggest that the rally is real, the breakout is real, and we can talk about what that looks like over time. Looking at the Bitcoin dominance, we can see that we are actually popping up about 1%, almost a full percent from yesterday to today, which does suggest that Bitcoin's Bula-ishness is going to actually soak up some strength from the alts, but that's versus the Bitcoin pairing, not versus US dollar. I'd imagine that most alts can be rallying versus US dollar as well, just not as much as what that would suggest. With particular interest on Mr. Beaterall, actually, just because he has been he was kind of the first mover in this one. Looking at the fear and greed index, we are technically greedy once again, printing green numbers right there, up 3 points from 55 to 58, but still that is very much within the lower echelons of what we're kind of looking at for that read. And I wouldn't really put any sort of I wouldn't really put a negative spin on it just because it is green. I actually would look for this kind of enter into the green zone for a more long time, more prolonged period as Bitcoin finally, breaks a long-term range. This is essentially, validated, I should say, is the proper word here. So we'll look at actual charts right now, but I forgot to wish you the best and the half of the half because I'm just having a fucking laugh at the at the opening intro. I was able to fix my computer yesterday, so we now have no longer do we have that immature box behind me, but now it is the ice box. I'm gonna call it the cooler because, well, it's blue and it's white and I'm actually really enjoying it right now. Same computer, just had to get a new 2080 Ti. My 2080 Ti just blew up for whatever reason. Maybe too much tuna. Anyways, looking at Bitcoin's chart. We'll start off with Bitcoin today because there's actually plenty of things to talk about on Bitcoin. I want to follow up on the weekly closure first and foremost. The weekly closure did close on a new high above June, 1st of June highs right here, and I do consider this very likely. Not very likely, but I do consider this essentially the breakout, either a closure above the last prior high on the weekly, or a daily or 12-hour closure above the 9,900-ish level were all good enough for me to denote this, mark this off as resolved to the upside. And now, realistically, following up on all of the areas of interest that we've been having in here, while Bitcoin's been kind of filling out this range, I would pretty much have the same ones. We do see that there is a backfill coming in from, what is this? February highs right here. That is where Bitcoin did head up into the early morning hours, it looks like. But that's only, these are just going to be short term, most likely. We can make a nice liquid zone right there, just coming in from this area here. Again, early February it is. Let's put in a nice little blue box there. This is going to be more or less relevant to the medium term time frames. And it does look like Bitcoin's going to be respecting it on the way up. But as soon as Bitcoin essentially closed within this blue box right here, the one that we've been watching for a long time, both to the upside, this area right here, and to the downside right here, that is essentially going to mark off the new bias, essentially playing in this range. It looks like it just did it all in one fucking 4-hour dildo. I woke up to this. I woke up like this, so it's a little bit of a nice wake up for myself. Now, more importantly, we do see that volume is increasing on this this rally as Bitcoin does break the top side of the range, and that would suggest that this is real alongside the increase in open interest, like we were just saying. Following up on the 4-hour golden cross right here, playing out, of course, after a little bit of a fake out right here, not necessarily a fake out, but this was actually a decent cross to the downside. Just didn't get that follow through. Got about a 4% move, which is tradable, and that's definitely not something to whine about. But at the end of the day, when you are looking at cross like that, typically you do see a lot more of an actual move spun off about it, and I believe that's what we're seeing right here as trend emerges and reverts on the 4-hour first. That was kind of our major initial warning signal, really changing my bias from bearish to bullish above this area right here, of which I did get into a position a little bit lower, and now just managing with options as Bitcoin goes to and fro from the next resistance to support, of which I'm just looking for to kind of play out a range between this 10,000 even dollar number right here and this topside blue box, which I have. Topside is coming in right around about 10,350. This is where things get a little bit more diabolical from a trader's perspective, because Bitcoin, when Bitcoin actually does break the range, well, now we're no longer by definition ranging, of course. So what does that mean? It means that we have something new going on, and in this case, the uptrend emerging from this area would put in the bias that overall, I am looking for price action to meet the measure move out of this formation right here. But there is going to be these nice volatile dumps along the way, of which we saw one yesterday, heading up all the way to about 10,150, and then immediately coming back down right below 9,900 actually, or sorry, 9,800. So that was about a $200-$300 move all in the span of just a few hours realistically, and we're gonna have stuff like that. So there's a guy in the TA program who I really like, who was actually talking about this the other day, or he kind of harps on it about it a lot. He also talks about his fucking dog, which is kind of annoying, but it's a dog, it's cute, I guess. And he was talking about how there's going to be a lot of long liquidations in a bull market. And you know what, Craig, you are right. There is going to be a lot, because there's going to be a lot of degenerate traders just trying to gamble on these, leveraging up way more than they should ever be really fucking around with. And well, that's why we get shakeouts moves like this. But these are essentially now, with this new bias in place, going to be to buy, and that's kind of like the main disposition of the relevancy of this past move that we just had. So I want to go over here now. Do I want to follow up on this? Yeah, I think I'll follow up on this just because this one's a lot easier to read. And Trollinger Bands were the first one to really get it right, as we did clear that 9,200-ish hurdle right here, getting back above the median band, and then launching a move up to the top side of the bands, of which we've just been trending above ever since. And that was essentially the disposition that the target was 9,900 to 10,000, as long as we're riding the top side of the band. That was met yesterday, and now just continuation essentially, as we see momentum oscillators turn back up once again. We do see that MACD's nuts once again, really gaining momentum here, which is again good. So if you're in the TA program, I always say to reference the MACD video, because the MACD is actually very powerful. It's just people don't really use it, and people just think like you wait for a cross and that's good, right? No, what we really want to be seeing is we want to see like a break of structure and a trend emerge from that, plus momentum on the MACD histogram being shown as well, and that's where you really do get the magic happening. And that's kind of what we got right here, actually crossing as it got back above that 9,200-ish, 9,250-ish region, getting back above the median Trollinger Band, and then boom, ever since just been gaining momentum. And the reason why this is also rather powerful is because the way that this is increasing right now, we're not gonna have any divergences here on a daily. I'm sure that someone's gonna pull this all the way back out to like March and say, but Crown, there's divergence all the way over here. No, this is too fucking far away. If you're using this, it's probably not very relevant going all the way back over there. This area right here is relevant to each other. That was kind of perpetuating that dump from 10,000 down to 8,000, of which that move's already played out. By the same token, I'm curious how the weekly is looking at as well, because there was hidden bearish divergence between this point and this point. I suppose you could say that did play out fully for a 15% move from top to bottom right here. Are you looking for more on that than not? Usually I'd be looking for a more aggressive move, but at the end of the day, man, can't argue with price action right here. And more importantly, the MACD on this is once again gain momentum to the upside. And from the weekly perspective, it would suggest that we do have an area of interest actually at the top side of the Bollinger Bands, which would be just a bit above 11,000 right now. So why is that area relevant? Why do we keep on harping about that area? Well, if you recall back to the past few weeks of marking out both the measure moves to the upside and the downside, well, the downside measure move obviously had a move or a measure move down into like the mid to upper 7,000s, whereas the upside measure move actually has a measure move all the way up here towards about 11,400, 11,500, which is akin to the macro area on Bitcoin that Bitcoin's been getting rejected from ever since January 2018 right here. So all of this is very much relevant. It's just, defined time frame and defined relevancy of that. But because Bitcoin now does have that resolution on what I would consider a daily with multiple points of confluence here, I would say that, overall, I'm looking for this move to work its way up to a little bit over 11,000. That's where I'd be looking for more of a medium-term consolidation, probably sideways and downwards, and then we'll see if Bitcoin actually wants to put in a macro change of behavior, which would be had by closing any sort of a weekly dildo back above 11,500 here. Again, this is basically institutional order flow dynamics at play, where you can see all of the big shorts getting filled within this region, price action running away rather fast, and I would imagine that if Bitcoin does reach back up there in the short and medium term here, then I would be looking for, at the very least, a nice pullback from that region and a little bit of a sideways consolidation to play out, and we'll kind of come back to it over time. That also would suggest, though, that if Bitcoin does get about above this area, we have a macro change of behavior, and we can once again talk about those more moon boy-ish type targets towards 14,000, 16,000, 20,000, maybe beyond. It's more or less going to be what sort of time frame that you're looking for, and what sort of I think I'll just leave it at that. Anyways, on the very short-term time frame, so we are going to see some rather violent moves, I'd imagine, as Bitcoin is very much primed from a historical volatility percentile perspective. Just going back on over here, let me get a more long-term chart actually, and we can see that this is the culmination of quite literally about a little bit over 3 months now of a contraction phase. But we are finally starting to see an actual uptrend begin on the historical volatility percentile. So it would suggest that this is it. So Bitcoin again breaking long-term range plus momentum oscillators plus I guess MACD would be more so like moving average divergences and convergences. In this case, divergences obviously, while historical volatility percentile is expanding, while open interest is going up, while volume is also going up, while patterns are also going up, and I'm fucking dancing like a YMCA motherfucker right now, which is just silly because it's Monday, man, and this is what I'm doing. Anyways, looking at this right here, this would say that the party is, or not the party. I do want to be a little bit more grounded in this analysis here, so I do apologize for any sort of silliness that's getting in the way right now. But overall, looking at this right here, this signature usually is met with big moves, and the signature that I'm talking about is a 3-month contraction phase on both historical volatility percentile and also volume signature as well as pattern in this case as well. And I'm just saying as well too many fucking times. So my point is here is that if we go back to perhaps July, August, September of last year, 2019, we saw a very similar thing. We saw a contraction phase for about 3 months going in from the June highs all the way down here towards September, middle of September, before this major mass move to the downside. This was also a 3-month long consolidation in the form of a descending triangle, and at the end of the day, over the next like half year to a year, Bitcoin did go down, about 40% first, and then ultimately about 65%, which is rather aggressive. So my point is that, or the point that I'm trying to paint here is that with this similar signature, we typically do see some pretty major macro moves actually getting spun about it. Looking at this area right here, coming in from early 2019 as well, same sort of implications, just the other side. We do see a 3-month long contraction phase right here. Same thing on the lows. We see a nice declining volume going from left to right here, as Bitcoin puts in a nice ascending triangle on the lows, and then massive move as it gets resolved to the upside, 236% in total over the next 99 days. So my point here is that we're just kind of seeing this one emerge. It's just poking its little green sprouted dildo head outside of the like a little fire hydrant, that's stuck on the street, just barely getting enough sun to live right now. But I do believe that this is, more or less things are lining up rather well here. Now, of course, like I said, 10,350-ish region is an area of interest, and I would look for some short-term volatility off that region. But if Bitcoin can close a daily dildo above there, then I'd be essentially looking at another move back up. Let's actually start to chart this out now, the areas of interest to the upside, because there's not really like the bias for myself, and this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. That's the furthest thing from financial advice, but the bias for myself is to the upside here. Essentially, as long as one condition is met, especially as long as Bitcoin's closing daily dildos above 9,900, I have zero reason to be looking at this as like a fake out or anything like that. I generally think that it's just going to kind of meet that upwards target of around a little bit above 11,000 with some stops along the way. The areas of interest. Is this a fresh chart? Let's get a fresh chart, maybe like right here. I think this one's fresh. Yeah, this one's fresh enough. Okay, so we'll chart out this area right here. Okay, coming in from February highs, we'll chart out this area right here, coming in from this little stutter step that we had in September 2019 at about 10.7. We'll chart out this area right here. A lot of big wicks coming in around 11,000, actually even, so a nice round even number as well. And then the top side liquid zone for the macro area. So, all along these, I'd kind of be basing my own trading behavior off of, which may or may not be right for you as well. I can't speak towards that. I'm just kind of sharing my way of doing things, for better or worse. I get wrecked. I can get wrecked too, obviously. But I do like these areas for managing off of. So if Bitcoin does take out this, and keep in mind that Finex is actually operating off of like a little bit of a premium here. So numbers are going to vary between exchanges, but I'd say this would be akin to about 10,350-ish region on most major exchanges. If Bitcoin can start to close, let's call it like 4-hour dildos above there, then I would be looking for an extension to about 10,700-ish or 10,650-ish region. Same sort of implications with that one, just kind of going from one to the next. This is just straight up very, very simple support and resistance trading. Granted the bias to the upside here, and this is going to be mediated, at least for the way that I look at it, by our lower term time frame oscillators. In fact, as I would keep an eye out on 4-hour divergences, because they are forming right now. We do see that 4-hour bearish divergence is in place. It is not confirmed just yet. Until we actually put in a local high, it will not be confirmed. But if this were to turn into a local high, which it's not going to happen on this dildo right here. It could happen over the series of the next few ones, but essentially what I'm looking for is like a clear stop and reverse point. Then I look for another test back down towards this range right here, between 9,900 and 10,000 actually, and probably another bouncy bounce there. But like I said, my bullish bias looking for 11,000 to be tested is essentially in play as long as Bitcoin's closing at the very least 4-hour dildos above 9,900, especially 12-hour and dailies as well. Now, if Bitcoin does head back down below 9,900, we'll call it, and really close like a 4-hour dildo below there, like a nice girthy one, then I would be looking for extension rather quickly to the mid 9,000s, probably 9,500 right here would be a nice little area. And then I want to come back to it in real time and kind of see it, and see it from that perspective. Could it be that we get a fake out? Yes, fake outs do happen. Absolutely. It's just, as a trader, when you get your signals, if you either play them or you don't have a signal, and that's kind of destroys the whole point of it, I suppose. But the sort of case that I'm trying to construct here is essentially that this is like my bias buster, if you want to call it that, with the upside levels clearly marked out and well defined, which is nice. Anyways, let's see. What about momentum oscillators like Stokes? We do see it's kind of snaking around quite a bit as well. Technically down right now. We do see a nice trend line forming here, coming in all the way from 10th of July lows, in fact, which would be actually protecting against the edge of the bullish control zone. So a bit, if we do see it come down around here, I would actually be looking for another potential higher low within that structure. And the 4-hour momentum oscillators will remain to the upside. We'll keep up momentum to the upside as long as Bitcoin's closing 4-hour dildos above 10,250 essentially. So that is in play. But again, I wouldn't be looking. I actually don't like using Stokes for moves like this. I do not like using Stokes for trending behavior. I like using it for ranging behavior. It's actually RSI that's going to take kind of the pole position right now. And yes, bearish divergence is forming, but we don't have a confirmed local high just yet. I imagine that we probably get it, in the next next day or so and played a nice little pullback on the short-term timeframes. Historical volatility percentile also rather red as well. So I do think that we've probably seen the extent of this short-term move for now, and probably played a little bit of a sideways and maybe even a little bit of down consolidation too. Looking at 3 hour, we actually do see a really aggressive uptrending nature here on 3 hour Stokes. Same sort of, this is actually the same trend line from the 4 hour. Now, obviously you could, just kind of pull it in a little bit more and make a regression right here, and that would be right. Again, protecting against the bullish controls, and so I do like that. And we'll remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin's closing 3 hour deltas above 10,200. So it looks like Bitcoin is going to get another try at this 10,350 to 10,400-ish region right here short term. Can it actually clear that or not? I don't have an opinion on that. It is a little bit under pressure here just because divergences are forming all across the land. But actually, no, the 3 hour is not going to make divergence. And here's the thing: if you don't see divergence on a lower time frame than the time frame that you're looking at in question that you think is formulating it, then it's probably not going to play out. So in this case right here, I'd actually say that the 3 hour probably suggests that the 4 hour is not going to put in a local high right here. It probably will get another try to the upside, at which point we can play the game of is this going to turn into a local high or not. Once again, looking at 3 hour Joule, I'm sure that a lot of people think that this is a sell signal. It is not. Looking at 3 hour historical volatility percentile, this is also a little bit more concerning as well. It would suggest that consolidation on the short-term timeframes is coming sooner rather than later, which is also essentially confirmed on the 2 hour. And 2 hour does actually have bearish divergence forming. However, again, same thing here, not a local high just yet. So, what does this kind of line up with? It lines up with a little bit, another try to the upside. Do we actually have enough momentum to break it? I'd probably say no, not today. Probably play out a little bit of sideways consolidation, come back after that, see what new things are in, on their reads from the momentum oscillators by that point, and then kind of judge it from there. But what it probably no, I shouldn't say what it probably does. No, I don't know what it probably does. That's why I'm doing the fucking analysis. Anyways, looking at the hourly right here, heading up right now, will remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin's above 10,050. So this is very strange, actually, because we see a massive difference between the hourly and all the other ones, the hourly 2 hour and the other ones, as they're a lot more lenient towards this, showing essentially that we are still in the process of trending, which I'd agree with. Bearish divergence is almost confirmed here, in fact, but this is not a clear stop and reverse point just yet. If we start to close an hourly delta, let's call it below 10,200, that will very likely do it. So now we can kind of come up with an area, though. At the end of the day, is an hourly something that I really want to be, basing like long-term trades off of? Fuck no. I really want to be looking at a monthly, of which I think it's actually very relevant to be looking at a monthly because we are closing this month in the next 3-4 days. Yeah, on Friday, I'm looking at my calendar right now. We are on the 27th day of July, and July only has 31 days. Anyways, looking at this right here, this is your monthly, and we put it on log scale, so it makes a little more sense. And any sort of a closure above 9,400 or whatever this closing area right here is, about 9,350-ish region, in fact, is going to be marked off by a change of behavior here as well. Is going to essentially make this look like an accumulation zone with a resolution to the upside and a short-term, medium-term target up to basically this area right here, which is actually just shy under 11,000. In fact, this is all coming along the side of monthly Stokes, very likely to confirm once again back up to the upside. It was a major question mark earlier this month when Bitcoin was around the $9,000 level, because if we actually close below 9,300, we will cross them back onto the downside. But as long as Bitcoin's above there, which is actually exactly where that last little prior swing high is here on a monthly, then not only are we kind of breaking that structure and, well, in the process perhaps of continuing on the long-term uptrend, but also turning up momentum oscillators at the same time. All these things work together, and I do put quite a bit of weight on that. Of course, have we all seen weirder things in like $1,000 dump in 4 days for Bitcoin? Yeah, I'm sure. And so, while it's relevant to talk about right now, still it's not confirmed until Friday, although things do look good, and I would say it's looking nice here. Monthly RSI bouncing off the exponential. This actually looks a lot more healthy, and like I said, RSI probably better for these sorts of moves here. Problem with the monthly, though, is that we just don't have enough history to really be populating these sorts of indicators. And then monthly Joule as well, same thing here. Very, very immature. We don't even see like a full history on it. But technically speaking, is this a halt or your logging signal? It is being hit in April, May, and then confirmed in June. It looks like, yeah. So all these do kind of drive the upwards bias, and realistically, we also have to call back to the last 2-month and quarterly chart that we closed last month, actually, which are very, very powerful here. Overall, could Bitcoin still play out at a range down to the mid to upper 7,000s? Yes, but as you can see right here, the long term is very much in an uptrend, and that's not really getting broken as long as Bitcoin's closing, especially bi-monthly deltas above 7,200. It's got quite a big range here, and that should be a little bit sombering, but if you're not super over leveraged and long, then it's probably not a huge issue. Although again, I shouldn't really say things like that, but here's your quarterly as well. Same sort of thing. Your last higher low structure coming in around actually 6,500. So again, big ranges here, but the long-term bias has been bullish for some time. It's just, do we play out a move towards the upper or mid 7,000s first before continuing onwards and upwards? And it's looking like that's very unlikely right now, especially after this 3-month-long consolidation right here. I'd say that is I'd say that idea is very likely going into the trash bin of trading. Anyways, looking at the daily, once again, we do still see that daily Stokes are still very much nice and erect, painfully erect, in fact, as they are starting to lose a little bit of their luster up there, but will remain still across the upside as long as Bitcoin's closing daily totals above 99.28 essentially. So again, now we're coming back into this kind of relating the horizontals to the daily momentum, of which we can see here that essentially as long as Bitcoin's closing daily totals above especially 10,000, momentum remains the upside, and I wouldn't consider this any sort of a fake out. Below 9,900, not only do we not only do we have a swing failure pattern structure in play, but also we see momentum oscillators on the daily turn back down. So I do like the confluence there, and essentially makes me a little bit more feels more formidable on the breakout, especially as long as Bitcoin lives above that area. Looking at daily RSI, we do see that potential bearish divergence will be forming. But still, Bitcoin's in the process of trending right here, so it's really not appropriate to be relating it to each other. And realistically, I am using a 14 period on my RSI right now, so we're talking about price points that are about 3 months away from each other. Is that still related to each other? I'd argue no, or at least if we are going to do that, we should be using like a 3-day, for example, of which do we see any divergences forming here? Could be forming, yes, but still in the process of trending. We don't have a clear stop and reverse point. This looks like a breakout to me more than anything else. And by the way, on a 3-day, not only is Bitcoin taking out that prior high, but also seeing a 3-day momentum oscillators turn back up, again hitting this area right here, rejection of the bearish control zone. I like all these things kind of in line with each other. 3-day RSI getting back above the exponential, and working its way towards the bullish control zone. So to me, this is trending right now. It's not until we actually have a top in place, we can't really talk about divergences. And to put things into perspective, we won't even be able to put in a top, even if we were going to put in a top right here, even if we were going to put in a top right fucking here at 10,250, it wouldn't even, it couldn't really, it's not that it couldn't, I mean, weird things fucking happen, but it'd be very unlikely to happen like on this 3-day dildo. I mean, keep in mind, every one of these dildos represents 3 days worth of price action. We're closing this one tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, in fact, so it wouldn't even be available for them. We need at least like 2 more to put in a reversal formation, and then yes, it would be confirmed, and then we'd have divergence, and we can talk about that. So for right now, I do think that rounds out the buys still a little bit more. Same thing on 3-day historical volatility percentile. We are at very, 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 very historical lows here, which would suggest that this next move should be rather interesting. Looking at 2-day, kind of following up on this one as well, looking good, getting in the bullish control zone for Stokes. 2-day RSI back in the bullish control zone as well, looking good here too. And I think that we're closing this one tomorrow night as well. So neither of these closed tonight. I'm sure that a lot of people are going to be talking about the gap on CMEs, of which there should be a pretty massive one present all the way down towards 9,700. Could it be that Bitcoin tests around there and has a nice washout move before anything else? Yes. We do pretty much see all gaps on CMEs filled except for one. There is one still present over here at 11,500ish region. Another reason to have that one marked off to the upside. But overall, when you do put in a major formation like this and it completes over time, you can get what's called a professional gap. And that essentially is a gap that's not, those are the kind of gaps that actually sometimes do not ever get tested. Well, I shouldn't say that they don't ever get tested because time is always continuing, but those are the ones that, if anything, are more likely to take years potentially to fill. Now, let me give you an example. The 11,500 one right here, for example, would be a great one. This was a professional gap. Bitcoin gets a nice move up, immediately moves down, doesn't retest it anytime for the next. I mean, it's been about more than a year now. Or sorry, it's almost been a year now. We could go through traditional markets to show some more examples of that, but I don't think that's really necessary. We don't really have any other ones on Bitcoin right here. But it essentially kind of marks off a macro change of behavior, and that was your major reversal to the downside. Just like this one over here. Well, could have the same implications as Bitcoin once again pokes its head above 10,300-ish region. Fuck, I got to remember to make this video shorter because I got to get on with Elliot of FUD TV. I'm really excited to speak with him. He's a good friend and really like collaborating with him. Okay, so maybe let's wrap up Bitcoin and then go check out traditional markets really quick. Bitcoin. Let's go back maybe here. Which chart above? I'm using so many different charts now. I don't know which one. Yeah, we'll stick with this one. I'm essentially bullish as long as it's above 9,900. Could it be that we do come back down and test around that 9,600-ish level or 9,550 gap? Yeah, could be. But as long as we don't get any daily closures below 9,900, I don't have any real issues with this price action. If that does happen, I would look for that test down to the gap though. Other than that, I'm generally looking up here with particular interest at 10,350, 10,650, 11,50, and 11,500. Okay, cool. So let's go check out traditional markets. Let's go check out NASDAQ. We said that it was likely to open up this week on a bounce. And are we bouncing? Yes, we are bouncing. Nice. And I'd be looking for this bounce I'd be looking for my voice to crack up a little bit. I'd be looking for this bounce to carry out a little bit more here. Probably back up towards 10,650, 10,700-ish region. And then I kind of take it one step at a time. Once again, I am not Bula-ish on this as long as we are below 10,850. Now, I go to and fro on this, whether I think that this one's like actually topped out or not. It's always difficult calling a top. I've seen more people go broke trying to buy or sell tops and buy bottoms than anything else, which is kind of funny. It seems intuitive, but it's actually quite not. Trading trend is significantly easier, or at least significantly less deadly from what I've seen. But looking at this right here, I do think that we are going to get a nice bounce back up into this region right here, and play out some more sideways essentially as rotations go on in traditional markets. So that's really all that I have to say about this for right now. I would get bearish for this reversal to see another leg down to the $10,000 even mark if NASDAQ does take out the last Friday low at 10,301 actually. If that happens, then yes. But for right now on the weekly, can this reconsolidate here and maybe try again? I wouldn't really look at it like that, as it is. But at the end of the day, again, an uptrend here. It's hard, it's hard. No, I do feel like we could be in for a nice prolonged sideways and a little bit of down, set in maybe a higher low somewhere, and then I'd really want to give it some time. Looking at E-mini futures for SPY, still looks good here. Do we have potential reversal in place? Kind of same thing as NASDAQ as well. But I do think that rotations give this one another try to the upside, probably back around 32.65 region right here. Any sort of a closure above that area, and I'd target the move towards 3335, which is technically still valid as long as this baby's closing above 319. So keep that one marked off because I do think that still essentially works here. We do have an uptrend in play as well, and as long as we're above the 21, I don't really have any major issues with this. Could it be a swing failure pattern in play? Yes, but the way that I would judge that is with the daily total closure below 118.5. If that does happen, I would target a move back down here towards 310 region. But for now, I'd still kind of respect the upside as long as that condition's met. I think it's relevant to be respecting the upside. We can't look at any of the other major indices. Well, we could look at their futures, but I don't think it's really relevant right now. Let's go look at Eurodollar, almost at that 117.5 target. Actually, holy shit, almost already hit there. Actually, pretty much did. 117.250, not bad. I still think that this extends a little bit more towards this formal horizontal right here. And then I'd be looking for a short-term and medium-term pullback based upon that. But same thing here. I have to be looking at the monthly closure, which is coming up soon. A closure anywhere above 115, 116 region. I think long-term, this will make a run towards the 200x benchmark average at just below 120ish region. And then I'd probably be looking for a major high being put in there, but fair enough for right now. Still bullish, I'd say. What else you want to look at? Maybe gold really quick. Gold not stopping, not stopping at all. I would have really been looking for a retest back down to 1880 as we came into this week. It's not even gonna give you that right now. It looks like new highs as it enters into price discovery and is making new all-time highs. New all-time highs here. And again, the monthly closure. A monthly closure anywhere above 1820, and I'd be looking for this run to continue into August, and that's looking rather likely right now. Now I do think that it probably will come back down and test around 1880ish region. I think that that's more or less going to be an opportunity. This still is one of the best charts in all of trading lands right now. We can go look at some shitcoins as well, I guess. Let's just go look at Mr. Beetle. I don't want to waste too much fucking time on these things. Not to say that they're like bad. I mean, obviously this is a really fucking good chart right here. Weekly close on a new high. I think generally speaking, heading back above 400, anywhere between about. Well, I would mark off this area right here. It is going to be relevant, but I don't think that it provides anything more than like a medium-term stop. Overall, I do think that it's going to be gunning for like the mid 400s, and then we'll come back to it after that. But I would be looking for a short-term and medium-term pullback around the 375-ish region, and I remain overall Bula-ish on this one as long as it's closing weeklies above 290. This is again a change of behavior. Daily looks good. It's in the process of trending. Yes, momentum oscillators are getting a little bit hot here, so there's going to be short-term volatility, very likely. But for now, the trend is your friend until the end of the trend, and the trend is looking good. Again, with particular interest at the 290 region. I really don't want to spend time looking at alts. If Bitcoin's going up, they're all going to go up. How about that? There you fucking go. All right. And I need to get ready for Elliot. Ooh, it's my big day. It's my big date. Let's go take a quick look at CMEs. I'm curious if there's anything else of relevance here. Oh, we didn't even look at probabilities. Okay, so let's go back onto Bitcoin right here. I guess I'll pull up this chart. I think I just need to delete one of my charts and use them instead. Okay, so I have 10,350. So let's use that as a short-term pivot to the upside, and then to the downside, 350. To the downside, a little bit more diabolical here because it's like, what do you really want to use? Well, for short term, 10,200 10,200 is relevant, yes. But that's only for the very short term, like 4 hour and below. What I really keep an eye on is a $10,000 level, and 9,900 is where I'd really kind of draw the line in the sand, I suppose. So I'll use 9,900 in that regard. So keep in mind that 9,900 correlates to a medium-term time frame move, very likely back down to about 95.50-ish region, and would kind of mark this off as a swing failure pattern. By the same token, 10,350 to the upside, short-term range emerging with a new target up to. Where is this area? About 10,650, 10,700-ish region. So I'd be looking towards. So let's see what the maths gods have to say today. And they say actually very unlikely to the upside. Comparatively to the downside, 10.5% probability to close above 10,350 today, versus 44.37% probability to close below the downside. I would have not expected that. This is by the way on a 12-hour. I'm curious what a daily would look like. Oh wow, this is actually the below target probability barely moved. The above target probability almost doubled. 17.11% to the upside, probability above 10,350 today. Extrapolating that next move to about another $300 higher. 9,900 showing just under 46.5% probability to close below there. So it is saying that this actually could very well turn into a pretty massive fake out here. So it would be relevant to have your guard up, I suppose. But I like the way that the areas are documented, and that's as I said, from a trader's perspective, really all that you can do. for what it's worth right now. And I think that this is probably a good place to shut off this video. Probably could. I feel like I could have said a lot more, but I do need to get ready for this. We'll come back to it tomorrow, and we'll talk about the more short-term time frame ranges. If I had to call it right now, I'd be looking for a couple more tests back up to 10,350-ish region, and then play out a range between 10,350 and about 10,200. Consolidation sideways in that range is more or less good. I'd look for momentum oscillators to reset on the lower-term time frames, 4 hour to 1 hour, and then if it sets up for like Tuesday, Wednesday breakout above 10,350, I'd be looking for a 10,700-ish region, perhaps beyond after that. So for right now, I think that's a good place to shut this one off. I'd like to wish you all once again, take care, and until next time.